Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's about that time. And if I'm not mistaken, get ready, because words of wisdom and moments of meditation are only seconds away. Am I correct by that assumption?
You are correct, Mr. Williams. And when you say T-Boz, you got a minute and 15 seconds. Boy, holy cow, boys and girls, welcome to the show. He told me, Boz, a minute and 15. And, man, right to the T. I bet you this guy doesn't hit the snooze button when he gets up in the morning. You set the clock for 7 a.m., whatever. Boom, you probably jump out of bed and God knows what. So come on in, everyone. Come on in, everyone. Get the green pads and pencils. Isn't it wonderful? March is here, the eyes of March. I don't know what that means, but everybody says it, so I'll say it too. Welcome in, welcome in. Look at Mr. Williams with his green Yankee hat, his green Yankee sweatshirt, and you're wearing shorts already, my friend? God, well, 50 degrees, they say today, so with the sun, so you're looking spriteful there. Even you got green sneakers. Wow, look at you. Aaron Go Williams. That's great, that's great. Come on in, everyone. Plenty of seats down in front. We got some new couches they brought in. WAPJ is rolling the big bucks here, boys and girls. Come on in. We've got stands over by the coffee pots, so help yourself to a coffee. We've got what? Oh, we've got green cupcakes, green frosting on the cupcakes. Wow, thank you, Stan. Did you bake those? And we've got green tea. We've got some green bagels back there. And we even have green cider. How did you do the green cider? Oh, you're not telling me. Okay. Well, anyway, he's at the refreshment stand. Help yourself. Come on in. Quick exercise, everyone. Leave yourselves outside. What? Leave yourselves in the hallways. What do I mean by that? Last week we talked about toxic people. I didn't get a chance to get into this, but the most toxic person in our lives is ourselves. We are telling ourselves bad things. We talk ourselves in, we talk ourselves out. Like Michael Bublé says, talk ourselves in, we talk ourselves out. So in order to move forward, I want everyone to come into the room with the new you. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Come in with an open mind, an open heart. Leave all your disappointments out in the hallway. All the things you tried to accomplish this week, all the things you tried to do this morning that didn't go well, so what? You are a wonderful creation, a unique creation in the eyes of God. You are a children of God. You're listening to this show. You're listening to the Feel Good Show. Leave yourselves outside, your disappointments, and come on in with the new you, the you that you've been working on. And when you get those negative, toxic thoughts that you tell yourself, push them out. Push them out. I could tell myself all day long that I'm blind, but I don't. I tell myself that I do things in a different way, and that what Helen Keller always says, I feel sorry for the people who have sight and have no vision. So now that you're all refreshed, everybody say, uh-huh, and we are ready to begin. We have one shout-out today, boys and girls, only one, and it's going to be to my grandson, Jackson, who will be turning 1 year old tomorrow. Boy, that was a quick year. To Justin, my son-in-law, and Rachel, my daughter, I know tomorrow is going to be a big day, remembering the birth and all of that, and a very special time in their lives. And those of you who are parents are nodding their heads saying, and they have no idea how quick that 1 year old baby will be 40 years old. And it goes so, so fast. I have a 32-year-old and a 27-year-old, and I'm telling you, it's faster than a speeding bullet. And so Jackson hits one. It's been an amazing year. He's standing. He's almost walking. And we're all getting together Sunday to celebrate this wonderful gift that God has sent to our family. And I know that if my late wife was here, there would be trays of ziti and meatballs going here, and God only knows she'd be making food for an army. But I know in heaven she's smiling down on all of us, and she'll be part of this celebration. So that is our shout-out. Today we do not have a topic. I already talked about this with the good Mr. Williams, and it's a theme. And what I wanted to do last week, but Jock was in Atlanta. He deserves some time off, don't you, sir? And I wanted to do a salute to Black History Month, which is February. And because of our schedule, this is a live show. You know, Jock and I sometimes have other obligations, so we couldn't do it. So Mr. Williams said we could do it this week. So our show today is not topical, but it's more of a theme. And so I'm going to go over the format. It's rather a theme saluting Black Americans who've made so much contribution to culture and art and sports and movies and television. I could have done a 5-part series on this. Their contributions to the American way of life is unbelievable. And we're going to share today what a lot of them had said. Now, normally we have scripture verses, but for today we only have one scripture verse, which is going to kick off our show. And that verse really is what all these people have done in their relative careers. So what I've done is I broke it down into 4 categories. I could have had 100 people here, but what I did is I took a bunch of people, like I said, from sports, from politics, from movies, from music, and civil rights activists, and I broke it down into 4 categories, okay? The first category is character and humanity. The quotes all deal with that and how we can take what these people have said and guess what, boys and girls, incorporate it into our lives. The next category is choice and change. Choices you make and change that we can be part of, okay? Change that a lot of these people are part of. And then the next one down from that is accomplishments. Category 3 is accomplishments. The quotes that the people I'm going to recite, how they became an accomplished and success and how they deal with it. And then the last one is race relations and racism. And that'll be category 4. And the people that I chose for that really share with us how we can all live to be a better community. Black history, boys and girls, is really not supposed to be 1 month. All our ethnicities, Italian, Jewish, it goes on, Irish, German, Oriental. It's an American history, okay? It's a wonderful country. It's not perfect, I know. It's a wonderful country. And we're not supposed to shove people into months and boxes. So I hope what you learned today and what you know, you share with your children, you share with your neighbors, you share, and we eventually one day have an American history where everyone is involved, everyone makes a contribution, everyone is responsible for this wonderful republic that we call the United States of America. So we start with Isaiah, chapter 50, verse 4. And the Lord has given me a well-trained tongue to speak to the people a word that will rouse them. A word that will rouse them. So all of the people today speak words that will rouse us. We start with Frederick Douglass, okay? Frederick Douglass was a reformist. He was an abolitionist. He was a statesman. And he says, the soul that is in me, no man can degrade. The soul that is in me, no man can degrade. Isn't that beautiful? And that actually goes back to our topic last week. So Frederick Douglass talking about character. All of us have a soul. God has given you a gift at your baptism and in your birth, the soul and the gift of free will. And Douglass says, the soul that is within, in me, okay, he cherishes that soul. No man can degrade. No one can take away from Frederick Douglass or you who are listening that character, that gift, that beauty that God has built into you, your conception. So when we talk about character, feel good about yourself. That's why I led off with leaving yourselves outside. Dr. Martin Luther King, this beautiful quote says, the true measure of a man or woman, but we'll just keep with the exact quote. The true measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenges. Boom.
Where do we stand at times of challenges with our families, maybe with our health, with our businesses, with each other? The measure of a man is not where he stands during comfort, but with challenges. Are we that kind of person? Dr. King stood tall at times of challenges. He died for what he believed in. Are we willing to stand and have the character to be able to be strong enough in times of challenges, not just in times of comfort? So what is our character? Ask ourselves that when the show is over. Where do we stand? How do we stand? Desmond Tutu says, my humanity is bound up in your humanity, for we can only be human together. Again, this first category is character. His humanity, what is he talking about? Working together, what we're not doing today. We're connected. Jock says it all the time, unity in the community. Desmond Tutu was saying his humanity is your humanity, all one. We talk about children of God, one being, one unity. Humanness can only be human with working and helping and loving another human being. My humanity is bound in your humanity. Beautiful words there. Harriet Tubman, who was the creator of the Underground Railroad, and also the Civil War. She's also an abolitionist and civil rights. She says, every great dream begins with a dreamer. Are we dreamers or are we dream stealers? Begins with a dreamer. Remember, you always have within you, back to what Frederick Douglass said, within you the strength, patience, and passion to reach for the stars. Harriet Tubman said that back during the time after the Civil War. She says what we say on this show, what Frederick Douglass says, character within you. She felt within herself that she had the strength and the passion to save people during the Civil War and create the Underground Railroad. She didn't wait for someone else to do it. Okay? Do we wait? Or do we feel that we have the strength and the passion within us to make ourselves better people so we have a character that people can be proud of? These are the questions we want to ask ourselves as we go through these different categories. We're going to move into choice and change. This is a wonderful category. Some wonderful quotes here. We have time for a couple before the break. We look at the great General Colin Powell, who was the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He served as National Security Advisor. He was a general, obviously. He was the first Secretary of State. He said, be careful what you choose. You might get it. Boom. Do we choose friendship or do we choose to alienate people? Do we choose to love people regardless of their race, their religion, or their political affiliation? Be careful what you choose, the general says. You might get it. If some of us are living in lives of emptiness and we're alienated from our friends and family, what did we choose? What path did we choose? A good priest friend of mine always says, the choices you make you, just what General Colin Powell said. Be careful what you choose. You might get it. This is a beautiful quote by former President Obama, and I don't want to break it up, Jock, and I want to talk about it. Can we go to the break now at 11:29, and then I'll keep moving along?
Thank you so much, T-Boz. We just want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, 5 Points Center for the Visual Arts and 5 Points Art Center, with 2 convenient locations for your convenience. One, downtown, in the heart of downtown, at the 5 Points Traffic Circle, and 2, at 855 University Drive on the former Torrington Yukon campus branch, exhibiting international, national, and regional artists. We want to thank them for their support of Torrington Community Radio, WAPJ, and The Feel Good Show. And with that being said, we'll return the show back over to T-Boz for words of wisdom and moments of meditation.
Former President Obama, everyone knows, the first black president of the United States, and hopefully not the last, says this.
Before you go on, can I correct you on that?
Yes, go ahead.
As far as we know, he's the first biracial president of the United States.
Thank you. He's the first biracial. That's right. I think his mother was white. But okay, so we'll say the first but he has this beautiful quote, so let's just use it. Former President Obama said this, and I looked up a lot of things. This really took me. Change, because this category now is about choice and change. Because the choices you make, as Powell said, affects change. Change will not come if we wait for some other person or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. Boom. We are the change that we seek. Why are we pointing fingers at everybody else to do the job? What Obama says is what Gandhi said years ago. Be the change. Be the change. We are the change. We are the people we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. That is the most beautiful thing. Our world would be a better place if we stopped waiting for someone else to change it. And it doesn't have to be in a global way. You can start at the local level. We talked about volunteerism a couple weeks ago. Change in your household, the way you talk to your spouse, the way you talk to your kids, the way you talk to your neighbor. We are the change that we seek. All of us who listen to the show, you, Lynn, you, Stephen, you, Jock, you, Holly, you, Miles, what a wonderful gift. We talked a few weeks ago, you are the light. That's what Obama is saying, former President Obama is saying. Within us, what Frederick Douglass says. It's amazing how all these people are talking about the wonderful gift that we have within us. We are the change that we seek. Oprah Winfrey says this, a great talk show host and movie actress, and just built a wonderful career, gives away a lot of cars. One of the hardest lessons to learn in life is which bridges to cross and which bridges to burn. Boom. You got to let go of some stuff, folks. You got to let go of this bad self-image. You got to let go of the disability. You got to get rid of what your mother and father did wrong when you were a kid. You got to burn some bridges and cross some new ones. God has put some new people into your life. Some of you are dealing with very difficult childhoods. Some of you are dealing with divorce or alcoholic backgrounds in your parents or even yourselves. Burn the bridge. Light it up. Frederick Douglass, within, I will not be degraded, the soul within me. Burn the bridges and find the good ones to cross. God is putting new bridges in your life. With what? Friends. I've had a lot of new bridges in my life after my wife passed away. You know what those bridges are called? Fred, Lucille, Jim, Barbara, Stan. The list goes on and on and on. Charlie. Okay, burn the bridges. A lot of us who were widowed, we could have stayed with that bridge, but not that we burned it, but we crossed the new bridges that God put into us. And it's the people that come and love us and help us. But in terms of choice and other things, that's what life's about. Which ones to cross and which ones to get rid of. Miss Rosa Parks, she was part December the 1st, 1955. What she did is she made a stand, but she didn't do it by standing up. She did it by sitting down. And they wanted her to give up her seat on the bus for a white man. She said no, and it started the 381-day boycott in Montgomery, Alabama. And what did she say that we can use for ourselves? She said, I have learned over the years that when one's mind is made up, this diminishes fear. Knowing must be done. She means education. Knowing must be done
and it does away with fear. So going back to choice and going back to change, sometimes we're afraid to say something. We're afraid to join a cause. We're afraid because of what people might think. Baloney. What she says is when you make up your mind and you become educated, it gets rid of the fear. Our faith tells us all the time, do not be afraid. Okay? Rosa Parks was not afraid. Is there something in your life that you need to sit down for or stand up for? Years ago when I was a kid, I was 15 years old, right? That's peer pressure time, right? Mineola High School, Long Island, New York, 1972. I was at a friend's house. His name is Pete Woodward. He was the first kid I knew that his father was deceased and his mother was alive. And the mother was away, and his older sister said we could have a party. And so we were down in the basement listening to Beach Boy albums. There was a resurgence in the Beach Boys back then. And we had some chips and stuff, but his sister said no alcohol. I was fine with it, sitting there with my friends hanging out. Well, a bunch of other guys came by, and they said, wow, no beer? We can't have a party without alcohol. Why don't we move the party to this other girl's house? Her name was Barbara. I'm not going to give you last names, not the Barbara we know today. And we'd go over there because her parents aren't home. They got a liquor cabinet. We could just booze it up. There was 15 of us in this basement. So we walked outside. I still remember it was like this time of year, damp and cold. And I was standing there looking at 14 other people. And Pete Woodward was standing up on the porch with his sister. And he said, what are you guys going to do? He said, oh, we're going to go. They said, Boz, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going home. They said, what? I said, we're all here having a good time. The rules of the house are no alcohol. I said, we're going to move this party 1.5 miles so we can drink a beer? I said, I'm Italian. We got wine up the zigzag at my house. It's not even under lock and key. And I don't touch it, but it's there because my father trusts me. So I stood up. Now, that's peer pressure. I stood up to all those kids. I said, I'm going home. Me, by myself, turned around, walked all the way back home, 73 Syracuse Street, while the rest of them went to booze it up. Now, that may not be as big as what Rosa Parks did, but there must be things in your life where you have stood up for or you need to stand up for, or as Rosa did, sit down. What you believe in, don't fold like a cheap camera. Don't let pop culture or trends fold you in your belief. Be strong, like she says. No, get educated, and don't have fear. Carter Woodson, the journalist and the founder of African American History University, says this: we should emphasize, yeah, that's right, we should emphasize not Negro history, but the Negro in history. Boom, just what I said at the opening of the show, instead of corralling all this stuff into February. I think it's beautiful. Not Negro, but the Negro in history. The African Americans have been so much a part of our culture, not only with the issue of slavery, which was an awful thing, but how they affected. There would be no jazz music, boys and girls. There would be no rock and roll. There'd be no rockabilly if it wasn't for African Americans. They've contributed so much to this country. So why it's not the Negro, it's the Negro in history. What history? American history. There's so much for African Americans to be proud of, so much accomplishment, and it needs to be brought out. And I think what Carter Woodson says is perfect. We should emphasize not Negro history, but African Americans in history, our history. Now we're going to move into category 3, accomplishments. The great Muhammad Ali, right? Sting like a butterfly, sting like a bee, buzz like a butterfly. He who is not courageous, I love that word, courageous, enough to take a risk accomplishes nothing. Some of you have maybe missed the boat. Some of you are going to want to jump on the boat. You have a new opportunity. And there's a couple of people I know listening to this show. They took risks. They started businesses up against all odds. And at later ages, in their 40s or so, and they started businesses. There's some people, I know one guy, his wife had 2 businesses, okay? But in order to be courageous, you got to take risk. So success, accomplishment, doesn't just fall out of the sky.
success isn't from the government. Success is from within, as Harriet Tubman said, within, as Frederick Douglass says, about choice, what Colin Powell says, about choosing the right bridges, what Oprah Winfrey says, and what the great fighter says when he says, if you don't take risk, then you accomplish nothing. You can't steer a car that's parked. I'm going to name a couple of things, and I'll name the person who said this. I missed 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost 300 games. 26 times I missed the game-winning basket. I failed many, many times. That's why I succeeded. You know who said that? The great Michael Jordan. Okay? Imagine that. Look at all the failure that he had. But that attributed to his success. Why? Because he did what Harriet Tubman says and what Muhammad Ali said. He wasn't afraid. He must be a man of faith. We look over at the great Denzel Washington, great actor. At the end of the day, it's not about what you have or what you accomplish, but it's rather what you did with those accomplishments. It's about if you've lifted someone else up, if you've made someone's life's better, if you give back. Isn't that amazing? So success is not always, I want it, I got it, I'm sitting on a pile of money, look what I have, the car, the house, that's all good. But what Denzel Washington is talking about, and Jock talks about this on the show a lot, giving back. It's not about what you achieve, but how you share it with others, how you empower someone else, how you lift someone else up. Okay? It's not a handout, but a hand up. Are we helping other people, not giving them a free ride, but are we helping other people to be more, to see the goodness in themselves, to see the light that they are? Are we helping people see the soul within them that cannot be degraded? Are we doing that? If we're not, we need to. The great singer Billie Holiday said, someone once said, you don't know what is enough until you know what's more than enough. Some of us have so many blessings, we're not sharing it. We're not sharing a meal. We're not sharing a phone call. We're not sharing, sending a nice letter or a card. What's more than enough? The great Billie Holiday Diana Ross did a great job, and Lady Sings the Blues. Great singer. You guys should listen to some of her music. But do we know what's enough when we know what more than enough is? We're going to move into Category 4, race. Bob Woodson, author and civil rights activist, says this: it's not what people call you, it's how you respond to it that determines who you are. Boom. It's not what people call you, but how you respond to it determines who you are. Who are we? Have we all been called names? Do we call people names? How do we respond to that? Do we respond with hate? Do we respond with anger? Do we respond with violence? Or do we model ourselves after the great Dr. King and respond with peace? With peace. My father worked for a guy, his name was Al Silver, who owned the furniture company. And back in the 60s, a lot of Jews marched with African Americans for civil rights. Al Silver said to my father once, he said, because Catholics were called Gentiles. There was Jews and Gentiles. And Al would say, Boz, said to my father, Steve, you know what's the matter with you Gentiles? You're too gentle. You don't do anything. You don't get active, okay? And so in order to improve our race relations, we need to be active, like Al Silver was. It's not what people say to you, it's how you respond to it. So in our lives, whether we're African American or white, Italian, Asian, how do we respond when people say things to us that maybe we don't think is right? The great comedian Eddie Murphy says, race has never affected my career. I transcended it. Wow. Imagine that. The great Eddie Murphy, great movie, 48 Hours with Nick Nolte back in 1982. I can't believe that movie's 40 years old. Great movie. But Eddie says it right. You know, he looked at himself, as Frederick Douglass said, the man inside, and he made something of himself, and it's something we can all do, whether the whole purpose of this show today is not only if you're a black American, but an American. These things that these people are saying are applicable to all of us, including myself. Andis Owens, conservative talk show host, says this: racism exists, but it is far less rampant than ignorance. Wow. Ignorance can be cured by experience. The word ignorance means to ignore. So are we ignorant to people? Are we ignorant to the things that are happening around us? Okay? She says ignorance is rampant. That's what bigotry comes from. That's what racism comes from ignorance. You know, a lot of my Catholic friends now are in the season of Lent, and we're fasting, or they're fasting, right? Okay, you're not going to eat meat. I'm going to have fish sticks on Friday. That's easy. That's easy. What? Yeah. You know what we want to fast from? Let's fast from bigotry. Let's fast from prejudice. Let's fast from hatred. Let's fast from of judgmentality. Let's fast from condescension. Those are the things that, as Jock played the song by Stevie Wonder, Higher Ground. Having a bunch of fish sticks instead of a hamburger is easy. It doesn't make you grow. It doesn't make you better. It doesn't improve the world. But why don't we fast from the stuff, what Candace Owens is saying, why don't we fast from ignorance and get educated? Why don't we fast from the things that can change the world? Malcolm X, another civil rights leader, unfortunately, he was a Muslim minister. And he always says he was a human civil rights leader, a humanist. So he says you cannot separate peace from freedom because no one can be at peace without freedom. So, and he's not talking about freedom running around doing whatever you want. Freedom to be able to say, to preach, to write, to sing, whatever your culture is. You cannot have peace unless people are free. That's what we came to this country for. That's why my grandfather came here. That's why we're here, because we're supposed to be a culture of freedom, to be able to express ourselves, live without fear, be able to worship the way we want, be able to assemble the way we want. You cannot have peace until you have freedom. The great Lena Horne says, it's not the load that breaks you down, it's the way you carry it. Ooh. How are we all carrying the things that are heavy? How do I carry my disability? You know how I carry my disability? I go bowling, I go dancing, I work in the yard, I fight it. It's not the load that we're given, but as Lena Horne says, it's how we carry it. How are we carrying the tough stuff? Are we carrying it the way these people that I mentioned today all had tough stuff, especially when you go back to the abolitionists. But how they carried it is why we admire them. The great Jackie Robinson, first black man who was in baseball, across the color line they called it. Baseball is like poker. It's like a poker game. Nobody wants you to quit when he's losing, and nobody wants you to quit when you're ahead. Life is not important except, he says, for how you impact the lives of others. How you played in yesterday's game is all that matters. What did we do yesterday to impact someone's life, to reduce racism? What did we do about name calling, and if you want to call it bullying? What did we do? Did we do like Eddie Murphy and transcend above it? The great baseball player Roberto Clemente says the same thing. And he played for the Pittsburgh Pirates from 55 to 72. He says, if you have the chance to make somebody coming up behind you better and you don't do it, then you're wasting your life. The great Roberto Clemente. So he's saying the same thing that Jackie Robinson says. What are we doing for race relations? What are we doing for people? Are we calling names, or are we causing aggravation, or are we healing? How are we carrying the load, as Lena Horne says? See, this show is about introspective. When you got to look inside yourself and get all the junk out and put in the good stuff. That's why I said leave yourself outside. Bring in your good heart. Bring in your open mind. Bring in the beauty of creation that God has made you. And these people today have spoken things that can help all of us. ALL. We're getting close to the takeaway. Here we go. Before we get to the takeaway, I like this line by Larry Elders. He has a talk show, I believe, on Fox News. He's an attorney, an author. He says, optimism, it's not just a state of mind, it's a behavior. Wow. So we want to be optimistic about our country. We want to be optimistic about Torrington. We want to be optimistic about our relationships with each other. We want to be optimistic about race relations. It's a behavior. It's not a state of mind. It's not a bolt of lightning that hits you in the head and all of a sudden you're optimistic. It's a behavior. How do we behave? Do we behave the way these people shared with us? Do we behave like Oprah says, burn the bridges behind, take the new bridges? Do we make the right choices? Do we lift people up, as Roberto Clemente says? That's optimism. You know why it is? Because these people behaved in a certain way. Do we behave as Malcolm X said, freedom is peace? Or what Barack Obama says, we are the change that we seek. How are we behaving to create a country that has optimistic and positive beliefs? See, boys and girls, it's not about them, it's about us. It's not about someone else's job. It's about us as human individuals. What can we fast from that can make the world a better place? The takeaway, I love this, the great Duke Ellington. I had someone tell me, oh, that's old music. Duke Ellington, boy, listen to him. You want to hear swing, right, Jock? You want to hear swing, you listen to the Duke. Duke Ellington says this, life has two rules. Number one, never quit. Number two, remember rule number one. Boom. Optimism, soul that doesn't get degraded, making choices, lifting someone else, how we stand in the tough times, be the change. All of these things, helping others with our accomplishments, this is what makes us a better person. This is what makes the world a better place. Jock, you want to tie a bow? We have a wonderful, wonderful song by a great artist, and I want to hear that. So, Jock, go ahead.
You know, T-Boz, I really got to commend you because your recognition of on this subject just speaks volumes on your character. And as I was telling you the other day, my visit in Atlanta, I was talking to a gentleman, and he was expressing some of his sentiments about Black History Month, and he stated to me that it was kind of ironic to him that they did recognize Black History Month on the shortest month of the year. So I guess like that's progress.
The guy is a great. Invite him over for dinner, Doc. I want to see him.
But
anyway.
it's one of those things, and you know, my trip to Georgia, to Atlanta at that particular time was it was invaluable because there's still sentiments in that area that run high due to the Ahmaud Arbery murder and the last election. And many of the people that I talked to were, you know, just wanting to change that perspective because they're saying that, you know, there's people on the ground really working hard to bring people together and to make their communities more whole. Atlanta's still somewhat segregated, and that was kind of shocking for me to see. But I think the consensus is that they're striving to be better and want to make sure that they're doing everything that they can to show diversity and inclusion. So my hats are off to the citizens of Atlanta and residents of Georgia in hopes that they might find higher ground. And as always, you know, you're so on point with your analysis and your assessments, and we're just grateful here at WAPJ that you continue to be a contributor here to the station and to the show.
Well, it's been my pleasure.
And all of these people have marched into hell for a heavenly cause. And I want to wish everybody a great Friday Eve. And please take the green bagels. They taste a lot better than they look. Jock, spin the song. Everyone, be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Bye-bye.